Hi, I'm Lily, and I am deaf. I get quite a lot of questions. Where's my sheet? When I introduce myself and then say that I'm deaf, you might need to speak up, you might need to be a bit clearer. And the first thing that people often say is, yeah, but you're not deaf because you can hear me. Well, that's not quite true. I am deaf, I can't hear without my hearing aids in. It's not very fair to tell me that I'm not deaf and I can't call myself deaf, so I get quite annoyed with that. So when people ask me how deaf are you, it's quite hard for me to describe it because I have never been able to hear. So there's a scale that goes from mild to moderate to severe and then to profound, and I am moderately deaf, like on the border of severe, so I'm quite deaf. So that means without my hearing aids out, I can't hear hand dryers, hair dryers, taps, washing machines, that kind of thing. That's the best way for me to describe it. So what can you hear with your hearing aids out? Not much, hence the hearing aids. I've been deaf all my life, so I was born deaf, and then when I was 3 I got diagnosed with being deaf because my mum was able to teach me how to speak, which is the general kind of measure of whether or not you're deaf. And when you're a baby, they shake a rattle behind your head. Come in. When you're a baby, they rattle something behind your head, and if you react to that, then that means that you can hear it. But I saw it in the reflection of the window, and I reacted to that, so then they decided that I wasn't deaf. And then a few weeks later, my mum started complaining because I would cry when my mum was hoovering in the same room, and I would be wanting her because I couldn't see her. So my mum knew quite early on that I was deaf, and then it took a long time for them to diagnose me. People are often surprised when I say I can't do any sign language. I don't need to, so I've never learnt that skill. I'd quite like to be able to sign, but I don't have to. Okay, so I have a slide here which shows my level of deafness. So this is my actual hearing loss here, and I'll explain it. So the first box is where everybody can hear. So most of you in this room are in this box somewhere. So this is how much you can hear, and that's the normal range of hearing. Then the next one here is mild hearing loss. So some of my hearing goes into the mild hearing loss. And then the next one is moderate, so I'm mostly moderately deaf. And then the last one is severe, and then the rest of it is profoundly deaf. Now, so the left-hand side, this side shows the decibels of what you can hear or can't hear. So normal speaking tone, I think, is in this section. It's up to 20 decibels, and then the further up it goes, the louder you have to be in order to be able to hear. And then the top shows the pitch. So from this side to the other side is, this is the highest and this is the lowest. So my better hearing is in the higher pitches. So there we go. Okay, so when I was at school, I had a teacher of the deaf who expected me to go to a specialist deaf school to begin with, and my parents refused to let me go there. I went to a mainstream school because part of the reason was this, is because they expect you to only do 5 GCSEs. You're not allowed to do a language, and you're only encouraged to do BTECs or what's the one that's below a C? Anyone?
Foundation?
Yes. Yeah, foundation, like foundation level stuff, and they wouldn't let you get like A stars to Cs. So I went and did 12 GCSEs instead, and I got A star to B in all of them, and I did French. So I kind of told them off a bit for telling me that I couldn't do that. Then I went to a talk specifically for deaf people, and they said what you could do in your future. This was just before I was doing my A-levels, and they were focused on apprenticeships. They didn't tell me I could do my A-levels. They told me that I couldn't go to university. I wouldn't be able to get there. So here I am at university, having done my A-levels. So most deaf students get told these things, and people's parents go, yep, okay, we'll take that on board and we won't let them kind of go too far. But my parents are quite stubborn, so made me do all of these things. So I have everyday experiences, so I'm quite well spoken, as you can tell, and people don't tend to assume that I can have limits to what I can do. So I can't call people because with mobile phones they interfere with your hearing aids. So you know the sound when you put a phone too near a speaker or something and it goes that kind of thing. I get that all the time, so I can't hold a phone to my ear, it interferes. I can't hear people in a busy environment, so if I'm in a busy room and someone's trying to talk to me, I lip read them. I can't hear them at all. So when I go clubbing, it's actually easier for me to take my hearing aids out and lip read people than to just listen. It also means that if you tend to do this or cover your mouth when you're talking, I'm not getting what you're saying. I can't hear quite a lot of noises you take for granted. So I used to have analog hearing aids, and now I have digital hearing aids. I've upgraded. And I didn't realise that rubbing your fingers made a noise. I've never heard that before until recently, and that was quite interesting. Another thing that people find interesting is that the listening part of my brain isn't as big as everybody else's. So I can't listen even if I wanted to. So I find it more tiring to talk to people because I have a bigger observational area of my brain. So I use context and lip reading in order to follow a conversation. I don't listen. So I find it far more tiring to talk to people than everyone else. And I'm introverted, so. So I've had very strange experiences with being deaf because I'm obviously still quite young. So I work in a tea room and I've had people make so many comments. I've had old men come up to me and have a competition with me of how deaf they are. And they don't have hearing aids in, and I do, and then they're like, yeah, but I'm probably deafer than you. It's like, all right, would you like milk with your tea? Or I've also had somebody recently up the green grassy hill, somebody walked past me and told me to put my ears away. I don't know how to do that, so it was very bizarre. So I was walking out to work, and this old man with like a bandana, I thought that was really strange, and he was like shouting stuff to everybody, and then they came to me and I had my hair up like this because I was going to work, and then they were like, put your ears away, and I was just so confused. I also had somebody at my work tell me, so obviously I'm short-sighted as well, so he said to me, oh, you're like somebody from EastEnders. Yeah, I'm not really an entertaining character. I'm not meant to be there for your entertainment. You're meant to be here, you know, just take a coffee and go, I don't care. So that is the strange experiences I've had. So does anybody have any questions? I've heard most of them before. Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, do you find that places could do more to kind of cut down that ambient echoey noise that you get? So, like for example, at the cafe downstairs in Cafe Solo. Dolce Vita, that's the one.
Yeah.
You know, where everything echoes.
Yeah, so it's actually better if you have like a booth, because the sound is kept in that little area and you don't get so much of the outside noise. But I'm not going to ask all the restaurants just to make booths. No. But yeah, so if there's like a wall that you kind of sit, I tend to sit on that side and it kind of reverberates so you can hear it better. But I'm not sure there's much else they can do to make it better other than maybe not have background music and people talking and kitchen noise. But yeah.
I've recently seen something where restaurants are being encouraged to introduce lots of soft furnishings, so wall hangings, curtains and cushions and things like that, because it's getting so hard for normal hearing people or able people to communicate in these areas without actually shouting at each other. And how much harder it is if you are hard of hearing or deaf.
I imagine in some ways it's easier for me because I can lip read, so I don't, as long as I can see that person, as long as it's not like really dark like in Hollister, I can see them, so I can lip read them. So I think in some ways I would find it harder, but in the other ways I'd be able to make up for that with all these skills that I've had to learn. I don't know.
What's your biggest challenge at university
So I've had to ask all the lecturers to try and send me like notes of their PowerPoints, because it's really difficult to sit in a lecture, listen to them, lip read them, look at the slides, and then write down all the notes. It's really it's quite a lot to do. Yeah, and so I've said to them all, can you send me like notes on your PowerPoint? And none of them have done that at all. And it's on my ILP, and that's my biggest issue, I think. So yeah. But otherwise, it's fine. Yeah, go on.
Did you learn to talk at like a normal rate?
No, I was quite far behind. So my mum did A-level English language, which meant that she learned how babies developed and their talking. So she managed to get me to learn how to speak, but she had to quit her job and look after me full time to do that. And then I did have a speech therapist for a while, and then I caught up to everyone else, and then I exceeded them because that's the way I am.
That's very impressive.
Thank you.
Your parents both hearing?
Sorry?
Your parents both hearing?
Yeah, everyone in my family is. We don't know why I'm deaf.
Do you have any deaf friends?
No.
Okay. So you're not involved in the deaf community at all?
No, I've never had an opportunity really, because I've always been to mainstream schools, and whenever I have done, I went to a deaf camp once, but that was really difficult because no one can hear each other. So yeah.
Is there anything that people can hear normally should do or shouldn't do when they're around someone who's deaf, and something you don't think about it?
And yeah, I think some people quite often fiddle with their face, which then means that I can't lip read them. Or sometimes people don't look at you, so they're like talking to the floor, and you're just like, or I think sometimes people mumble, so that's annoying. And Sam's looking at me like, these are all things I do. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of generally, I'll manage.
Do you find it harder to lip read people who English isn't their first language, or they've got sort of a different accent, or?
Yeah, so everybody has a different lip pattern, so I have to learn them all, like people listening to accents. I'm very good at English and American, not so good with the other ones, but I can work it out eventually.
So more time spent with someone,
Yeah.
you kind of get used to their
Yeah.
lip pattern.
And how did you learn to lip read?
Well, because I didn't actually manage to hear until I was 3, that was how I had to communicate with all my family. So yeah, so I just learned it from birth, and I've never lost it because I still have to use that skill. Go on.
Where do you think you'd be if it wasn't for your stubborn parents?
I think I'd probably be doing an apprenticeship somewhere that doesn't involve calling people, and I probably would only have 5 GCSEs at sea, and I would be very sad.
Are you concerned about your job prospects and how you'll be received in Florida?
Yeah, part of me, my mum thinks I shouldn't put that I'm disabled on the form. You know, when they ask you, she thinks I shouldn't because I'm able in every other way. It's just calling people I can't really do. But I always put I'm disabled just to be like, but I don't know if somebody would reject me based on if I got to the interview stage. I think they would be like, oh no, she's fine. But I think everybody has that kind of misconception that deaf people are just very rubbish at communicating, can't speak properly, kind of, yeah, but I don't know really. I'm trying to be positive about that bit.
Slightly weird question. When you think, do you think in sentences or do you think in pictures?
I think in words and
You think in words
yeah,
and
sentences,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. And when you write down my name is and I am deaf, do you use capital D or a small d?
I use a small d,
Okay.
but then I'm not really in the deaf community,
Yeah,
so I can't.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, that's just interesting.
I have followed some people on Tumblr though that are very into the deaf thing, and they're very passionate about what you should and shouldn't say, whereas I'm kind of a bit like, I will say what I want to say about me, So technically I'm hard of hearing, but I'm still deaf because I wouldn't be able to hear without my hearing aids in. But yeah.
I just think that's really interesting. It's really interesting, the comparison.
Yeah.
Do people assume that you can hear perfectly well because you're wearing hearing aids?
I think people meet me and assume that I can't hear anything at all, and then as soon as I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, then they kind of forget that I'm deaf. So I always get told that no one would know that I'm deaf unless you saw my hearing aids and knew what they were, but then it kind of goes a bit downhill, so I kind of peak with people, and then it goes downhill when I'm like, oh, I can't hear you, oh, I can't hear you, I've got a cold, I can't hear you. And they're like, you're rubbish.
So you've kind of made people think that you're fantastic.
Yeah.
Because you've got all these other mechanisms that you use to cope with it.
Yeah, well, not to toot my own horn, but yeah, I'm great. Yeah.
Do you know what you would like to do for a job?
I quite like to go into marketing or kind of that kind of area, or something to do, because I'm women's officer as well, so I'd like to be like women's rights. Okay, shall we call it a day?
Thank you.
It's
very
all right.
much.
Thanks.